You guys all remember the last big patch back in October, we were talking about the big changes, both system-wide and also character changes. And some of the big points that we hit back then, even when we first read the patch notes, the thing we talked about was that in the patch, the changes heavily buffed characters who don't give a shit if you FD their pressure or not. It made defense much stronger. Like throw PRC change happened. They made FD much stronger. They made it so that if you have like an air punish or whatever, it's better because you have multiple jump options out of it, right? And the pushback on FD is further. And it made strike throw characters reliant on sticking to you. It made their pressure much worse. At the time, right, we talked about that. Think about the characters that are strong in this version of the game, the top characters that everybody talks about. Happy Chaos. Doesn't care if you FD him. It doesn't matter at all. He plays strike throw, and he also has really good zoning. He doesn't care if you FD him or not. It doesn't matter. Ram, again, with how her pressure is structured with sword tosses and stuff, it doesn't matter if you FD the sword. It pushes her away, but she still gets to run the same kinds of mix-ups. She's still guessing about your escape routes, whether it's on the ground or in the air, and she's not really caring about whether you FD her that much. It's not that important. Nago, same thing. With how his pressure structured, it's much more about the situations post Beyblade, post like 5k, 6k, post close slash 6h, Fukyo back. Like, it doesn't matter if you're FDing that character that much in terms of the interactions. Like, you're still guessing whether he'll frame trap you or not, and then challenging there. The FD does not really change his pressure that much. Leo. Again, it doesn't really matter that much whether you FD Leo or not, because you can't fucking block him. Like, you're just trying to block the mix-up and you get smoked. And Zato, the other character people talk about, right? Again, he doesn't really care that much if you get FD'd. So, with the FD changes in this patch, it's not surprising that those characters are much better, both because their defense gets buffed, and also it doesn't matter as much to them as some other characters if you FD them. The changes to the characters are important, but you also have to remember system changes are a big impact as well. It's not just about like, do they nerf Happy Chaos? It's like, well, what are the other system changes that might be in the video game that could have a big impact on that? You know what I mean? I think the system changes did more to change certain characters than almost anything else. FD didn't used to work like this. So it's a pretty big deal if your character has good tools to circumvent being FD'd out. Yeah, I mean, they could increase meter gain on IB, or they could increase meter gain overall. They could make FD cost less meter. They could do all kinds of things to the system that, like, who knows? They could make YRC cost 25%, which would be a disaster. There's like lots of things that they could do in terms of system changes that would make the game way different. There could be new moves, or moves could function in new ways. They could give something guard crush, or take away guard crush, or do something weird to it. Who knows, right? There could be a lot of changes. I think making any option 25% is incredibly dangerous, because it will be like very useful, right? Like, meter is already so important in the game anyway, and like having a 25 meter option is going to get used a lot. So you have to be very careful about the power level of it, because that shit is going to be so good. If it was like 25% BRC, we're going to spend half the game slowed down. That's another thing that's important too about FD, actually. A lot of people talk about FD and like how much meter it costs. If you have a 1% meter, you can FD something though. If you block one thing, you can just FD the next thing because you have bar. What do I think about the movement in this game? I think the movement is fine. I think air dashes being faster in this game would be really hard to deal with. Just maybe the intention, right? But I don't think air movement is that bad in this game anyway. People use a lot of empty air movement in this game now. The only time you can't really do it is like Happy Chaos is locked onto you with curse or something. But using your empty air options and stuff is really important. Yeah, the air dash back change is like quite weird, actually. I'm not sure about that. Japan still thinks Soul's top one. Mochi's cooking them all. Mochi moves in the air more than like almost anybody. Like, he's always in the air a lot. It's like a constant thing. He's like always moving. And so like when you're focusing on the movement that he's doing backwards or he's in the air, when he does actually attack or advance, it's like, it's surprising because he's constantly doing stuff that is proactive. Soul's even more trash than what Jonathan says. Jonathan's a doomer about Soul, but he plays Zato, so I see where he's coming from. He's not a Soul player in spirit. Like, in a Soul player in spirit, you need to have belief, and like he does not believe in Soul. You know what I mean? You got to hero up sometimes and go for it to win the matchups that suck. The Anji player mentality? I don't know what the Anji player mentality is. I should play Anji. I'm about to pick Anji against all you Anji players and hit 5P, and you'll be like, how do I get past that button? I actually think if Anji players just hit 5P, I couldn't win. That button is too good. Listen. The DK bongo machine. That's what RAM is with far slash and 5H. DK. Donkey Kong. And you just mash the Taito drums and you got Evo finalists. It reminds me of when Cien played Poison. This is Street Fighter 4 Poison. And someone asked him something like, I didn't know you played Fireball characters. And he's like, oh, when you pick Poison, you immediately have a Fireball game. You have like a good Fireball game. because her fireball just recovered instantly. So you couldn't really throw a bad fireball very easily. Like, it just recovered like that.